Okay, Ryan, thank you for your time and the couple of slides for us to what the key concepts. So BlueFloat is it's a global player, and we are experts in floating technology. As we know, there are two technologies, two main technologies. One is the bottom fix, and second is a floating technology. We're about to know quite a lot about floating. Also, we're very familiar with the main bottom fix technology. So when it comes to pipeline, we do have over 30 gigawatts of the projects globally. In Asia Pacific itself, it is about 18 gigawatts, almost half of the global pipeline. We're focusing on Philippines, New Zealand, Australia, and Taiwan. So BlueFloat, in a nutshell, it's a company that, as I mentioned, has quite a lot of floating expertise. We are a global market player. We are present in about 10 countries. And also, we do focus on, when we do development, we focus on social license. Meaning, what is a social license? Social license, you can say it's an acceptance of the projects locally. So we do a lot of activities to actually build the local support for the projects we are involved in. Now, supply chain import engagement is kind of our core expertise as well, mainly because it's impossible to build an offshore wind farm without a proper supply chain in any country. So wherever we go, one of the first activities we do, we engage with supply chain and encourage them to invest, and we do develop our projects with the supply chain alongside us. We also have an excellent team. Most of us who BlueFloat have a hands-on experience in either floating or bottom fix technology. Most of us were involved in development, construction, or financing and operation of the projects. Wherever we go, we partner up with the key partners. So we never develop projects by ourselves. It is important to partner up with locals, to partner up with expertise that we don't bring. We're a company that knows how to develop, construct, and operate, but we're not experts in localities. And for that, we always partner. So now, why Philippines? Philippines must double its installed capacity generation in 2030. It means the country will really need a lot of renewable energy. And offshore wind could be one of the key enablers for the economy. The economy needs energy to grow. So we believe that offshore wind is the way to go for Philippines. Also, Philippines' characteristic is that majority of the sites are deep. So in those deep sites, you cannot deploy bottom fix technologies. You need to bring a floating technology. And this is where we think we can bring added value. A little bit more about the Philippines. This is the graph showing the estimated growth. So as you can see, in 2020, the capacity was about 27.6, and that needs to grow to 58. So it's well over, a little bit over 21 gigawatts that needs to be installed. When it comes to different technologies, there's a place for everyone. There's a place for solar, there's a place for onshore wind, hydro, but we believe that with offshore wind, what offshore wind can offer is the scale in the relatively quick time. This is a map that was provided by the World Bank, showing the resources that actually the Philippines has. The key point here is that the Philippines might not even know about it, but there is basically the Philippines is sitting on the gold mine, which is their wind. It is a country with well over 7,000 Iceland, and that means that we do have quite a lot of offshore resource. You can see the red and purple these are the colors when the wind is the strongest. As a BlueFloat, we do have already 4 sites in Philippines. Our total pipeline in Philippines is 7.6 gigawatts. We have a site in northern Luzon, in central Luzon, south Luzon, and southern Mindoro. Altogether, that pipeline could provide a substantial support in supplying electricity to Philippine people in the future. This is a slide showing that at this stage we are the market leader when it comes to size of the pipeline of offshore wind in the Philippines. Now, what we suggest when it comes to development of the country, it is a nascent technology in the Philippines. So what we're saying is let's do it in stepping stones. So let's start maybe smaller as the capacities needs to be built. And we're suggesting that to follow experience of other countries that went through that path, we're suggesting that perhaps 2 or 3 pathfinders projects would be the right way to go. We can divide those pilots into 2 different technologies. Let's do a pilot that is the size of 200, maybe 300 megawatts for bottom fixed technology, and another one for floating. This way, we potentially avoid any larger mistakes. We develop at first a gigawatt and we make a mistake, that mistake can be very costly and actually take the whole industry down. When with pilots, if we do make a mistake, it's much easier to rectify. Of course, with the mistakes we learn. So the mistakes will happen, but as I said, that starting from a pilot will mitigate the risk at the beginning. Also, pilot has another good advantage, which is scalability. So we would need ports for pilots. We also would need a supply chain for pilots as well. But we could upgrade the ports the way that they're scalable. We can provide learning for supply chain the way that is also scalable. Now, of course, it has to be well thought of when it comes to location, when it comes to grid availability. So it takes time to develop the grid. Another advantage of having a pilot is that there's these two areas when the grid is already pretty much ready to connect the first offshore wind farms. So strategically locate those pilots in those areas. Also, it would be a great exercise to go through all the regulations, and that regulation obviously needs testing. So the pilot will provide that test. This is a short slide showing the global sort of perspective on the floating technology. And again, we're focusing here on floating, mainly because Philippine majority of the sites that are suitable for offshore wind are floating sites. So you can see that the targets of different European, Asia Pacific, and America. The conclusion here, we're not working in isolation. There's a high demand that is coming from different countries. We need to take that into consideration. Obviously, the timing is the key, but also the building and expertise will be the key as we will be competing with others. And I'm happy to answer any of your questions. That is the end of my presentation.
That is a very good question. And us, first and foremost, deciding to be here is already a perfect indication of our strong alignment and congruence of purpose to the Philippines. I want to answer that in a manner by which we speak about the current state of the Philippine energy mix, as well as its plan to grow the renewable energy in its portfolio. First and foremost, okay, half, okay, or more than half of our energy mix is oil and coal. We import coal, okay, largely from Indonesia. I think we only produce coal very small. We only have one known coal plant, which is Simirara, near Mindoro. It doesn't produce much of our requirement on an annual basis. For this, we're very well dependent on Indonesia to supply us coal. Okay? So the other aspect to this is our renewable energy percentage is only about 22% of our overall 28,000 megawatt generating capacity. And then we import oil, obviously, from the Middle East. So oil and coal have, since during the last 5 years, shown its very volatile behavior. It's totally unpredictable, and Philippines has one of the highest energy prices globally. Okay? So this is the current state. What is the aspiration of the Philippines? The aspiration of the Philippines is to deliver 35% renewable energy share in its power generation mix by 2030. That is just, what, 7 years to go. And then to grow the same to 50% by 2040. Jarek has shown you a graph a while ago. Now, how much does that mean? The Philippines needs a total of 21.2 gigawatts additional renewable energy capacity to hit the 35% target. And then another 73 by 2040 to reach the 50% target. BlueFloat doesn't have all of this, but we have a significant chunk of about 7.6 gigawatts distributed along our 4 wind energy service contracts. Now, how are we developing this? We're very well conscious, first of all, with our drive to examine our environmental social impact assessment, considering birds, marine mammals, and other considerations. In fact, we're awaiting for the MSP, or the Marine Spatial Planning, and the other technical assistance results by the Asian Development Bank to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. And we're very happy to coordinate with a very competent and strong bureaucracy. The government has been very welcoming in, getting all our thoughts, our insights, to the point they call it, what are your wish lists, so that you can really implement your projects. So, and we've seen several undersecretaries reporting to their very professional department secretaries also, and their messages are intertwined. Now, the other alignment, if you speak about alignment to the overall Philippine Development Plan, which was initiated by our National Economic Development Authority, or the NEDA, it had 6 cross-cutting strategies that will serve as catalysts for our economic, social, institutional, and environmental transformation. First and foremost, that one of the strategies of greater collaboration between local and national government, which is very much congruent to how we are behaving today. We are, in fact, flying to North Philippines tomorrow. As we speak today, we plan to be there until the 13th of this month, September. So we can be able to engage with local stakeholders. And this is very much aligned. No? We collaborate locally and as well as nationally to the central departments. We are also collaborating in the local scene. No? The government sees the Philippine Development Plan's transformative agenda to enhance the capabilities of individuals and families, to deliver competitive production sector, and international collaboration. all of these pretty much are aligned to what the purpose of BlueFloat is. Wherever we go, we make sure that the international collaboration is at work. We drive the technology forwards, but we're very well sensitive that the local folks drive the application and making us more conscious about local needs. So we want to make the Philippines more competitive. We see a wide partner ecosystem to be built that can be very well responsive when we design, when we develop, when we de-risk our projects, and by the time we're about to go on our final investment decision to start construction and build our plant, and of course to operate and maintain. Philippines supplies 30% of the world's seafarers. We see lots of professionals in the oil and gas field that have been based in the Middle East as well as in the Eastern European places. Filipinos who would be very much willing to go back home, bring their expertise and experience that they learned, and work here locally. So this is already building the capability of individual and family. So alongside power generation, the president has announced as well his mission to do 100% electrification. As we speak, there are 2.5 million households that doesn't have access to safe and reliable electricity 100%. And if you multiply that by 4, which is the typical formula for measuring households to population, it's about 10 million people not having access to reliable and safe electricity. So we're very much aligned, I would say, to these programs by the government. It's really a whole of government and whole of society approach. So I believe all the intentions of BlueFloat resonates well in congruence to what the government desires to achieve.
There's a couple of things that we really focus when we go into new markets. Okay, so let's stick with the example of Philippines here. Philippines is a market where all ingredients are in place. So what do I mean by all ingredients? Philippines has very strong GDP growth. So the economy is growing and will need electricity. Also, the country has a very young population. It is actually supporting the future growth. The high electricity demand is already in place, and the estimates for the future demand are in place. So as I showed you before, the demand will almost double. So it means there's a place for lots of renewables. Philippines has very high electricity prices. In fact, I was checking your wholesale prices, and they are as high as in New Zealand. So imagine that if there is a low supply, that there is a risk of that price increasing. By deploying more renewables, we're increasing the supply, meaning that there's a high chance that the energy prices will lower. The government put in place high targets for energy, renewable energy deployment. This is important because we have clarity. The government really wants it. For investor, clarity is one of the most important things. Now, a lot of wind resources here. So you have a high demand, and you have there is a young population, there is unfortunate situation with the high prices, and then there is a lot of resource. So it seems very logical to use that resource to solve the issue. Now, another thing is that the large-scale renewables are difficult to deploy unless we add to it offshore wind. Meaning there's a lot of space in the sea, but the space onshore is usually limited because the land is used for different purposes. So Philippines, obviously being an island nation, has a lot of space. So now you were also asking, what actually do we do to enable the project? So the project development consists of several things. Here in Philippines, we are expanding our teams. We need people with expertise. So we're working on that at this stage. We're having lots of people that know that business. Another thing that we are doing is we're characterizing the site. So we started with the feasibility studies of pretty much the whole coast. And then we came up with the locations that were the most attractive from different point of views. But we continue getting to know that sites because we eventually we need to come up with a design of the farm, meaning that we need a data that will be later on used in that design. What data do we need? We need wind data, so we'll be deploying floating lidars to measure the wind. The same device will measure mid-ocean data. We need mid-ocean data to understand the weather. Let's not forget that we'll be doing construction in the sea, so we need to know how the sea behaves throughout the year. We will be doing geophysical studies, geotechnical studies, and we'll be engaging with the supply. We're already engaging with the policy and the supply chain. Another thing that we're already working on is we started working on environmental impact assessment. The offshore will, during the construction, will impact the environment. So in order to know how is this going to impact the ecosystems, we actually need to understand the ecosystem very well. So without the project development, we'll be doing lots of surveys of birds, surveys of mammals. We need to really understand the ecosystem in order to, so basically we'll characterize the ecosystem and come up with the estimates of the impact. Later on, we need to come up also with the mitigations so that impact is minimized. Also, very important thing is to select the local suppliers, the consultants. We're not doing things alone. There's a lot of things that need to be done in cooperation with the local businesses. So that selection needs to happen already. And then, last but not least, we are also finding the right partner in the Philippines. One more thing I almost forgot: there is no offshore without connection to the grid. So this is, we're doing studies and we are working on selecting the right location for connections and securing the connections for us.
I think it's very well placed, okay, as a technology priority and as a choice. You're right, it's gaining momentum globally. Number one, it was practically driven by this need to increase renewables, and as a response to what happened in 2022, about scarcity of suddenly gas. So there are lots of benefits that the Philippines can derive from offshore wind. Okay, first and foremost, there's 178,000 megawatts of potential according to the World Bank report within the Philippines alone, and then 90% of that will be floating. So, which means it's very well appropriate to the Philippines because it's an archipelago nation. Lots of sea floor, and at the same time, it's a country with 7,600 plus islands. Okay. Now, the World Bank already saw 6 sites, and for which we have 4. Okay. So, from what the country needs, we believe that offshore wind can be a major catalyst to accelerate all our renewable energy aspirations. There's an abundant RE resource in the Philippines, strong and steady winds, and of course, we see a very supportive environment. There's a strong political clamor by the president, he in fact issued two milestone regulatory decisions. First and foremost, the Department of Justice issued an opinion about foreign ownership, which allows for 100% investment by foreigners on renewable energy. And that was agreed with through a department circular last September by the Department of Energy. Okay. And then this becomes a very good motivating factor on our end to really go more full steam with our efforts. Second is that the president issued Executive Order 21. That executive order provided the framework on how we will be conducting and progressing the development of offshore wind. In that executive order, he enumerated even all the departments. I can name a few, no? Department of Energy, who is leading all of it, is there side by side with the Environment, Natural Resources, with the Department of Transport, no, who takes care of the port and marine routes, the Department of Trade and Industry, who makes sure that all our investments and incentives are very well in place, no? The Department of Environment and Natural Resources, no? Which takes care of protected areas, which takes care of foreshore lease agreements and also minding the forestry, no? Which can be our landing site for all our substations. And it also includes attached agencies, most especially the indigenous people and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. Now, that executive order also says that we should utilize digital tools like the EVOS, no, or the Energy Virtual One-Stop Shop. That Energy Virtual One-Stop Shop was passed into law many years ago, and the president said that in harmonizing and making sure that all barriers to securing permits are addressed and that there is no red tape in the bureaucracy, the president says that we utilize the EVOS. So all these are factors that we believe are further propelling our momentum towards achieving all our dreams of 35% by 2030 and then 50% by 2040. And it's only through the use of offshore wind. Now, Jarek mentioned a while ago that there are concerns about our ports, our grid, no, and our environmental standards. Okay, so as to environmental standards, that is already very well being addressed. No, I've seen a very active collaborative work, no, from competent undersecretaries and secretaries in the Environment Natural Resource, and a very active dynamic collaboration with the Asian Development Bank to finalize the guideline, evolving our ECC, or the Environmental Compliance Certificate, to something that will be very well appropriate to offshore wind. And they're even talking to developers like us, no? The EMB, or the Environmental Management Bureau, as well as the Environmental Impact Assessment Division of the DENR. So regarding grid, I believe today, after more than a year, they've been very well made aware to now consider the offshore wind size and scale. This is now being considered in their new and updated transmission development plan. Previously, it's not their fault, no? Offshore wind is a very nascent new industry, no? So it is just now that the NGCP, or the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, is putting this as part of their TDP, or Transmission Development Plan. Now, as regards to ports, we're very happy with the way things are being collaborated with the Department of Energy under the leadership of Yusek Bacordo. He's a former Vice Admiral of the Navy, and he's very well competent as well to understand marine routes, as well as deriving the specifications of the port. They're not doing this on their own. They're actually engaging developers like us. And on our end, how we're trying to evolve all of this is we brought our head of industrialization and supply chain as early as February this year. We flew to Mindoro, to San Jose, and then we able to do the rounds, from San Jose all the way to Calapan. Mindoro is the seventh biggest island in the Philippines, and we did our work for 2 days, traveling to every port in Mindoro. Then we rode the boat. We boarded the boat going to Batangas, and we examined ports once again. And then we traveled to Subic, as well as to Bataan, the Freeport area, and then flew to Tuguegarao in Cagayan and examined the ports all the way to Ilocos. We were happy to share our assessment with the Department of Energy and the Department of Transport. And as early as today, we are examining capabilities that can allow us not just to assemble and integrate, but potentially to also fabricate floaters in the Philippines, if that would potentially allow us to drive down cost even and generate more jobs, and so to speak, the so-called trickle-down economy effect, so that these initiatives we're doing will reach and create more jobs to key municipalities that require more improvements. So this is how we're seeing it: job creation, economic growth, providing access to power means providing education, providing for more livelihood. And there are lots of things to be done, particularly in the islands like Mindoro and the tip of the Philippines. If you provide for these economic opportunities to thrive, we are even thinking about consolidating, probably cold storage plants that will make sure that our agriculture thrives to produce quality goods, so that also our aquaculture, or our harvest through our fisher folks become more fresh and always available, while being transported from faraway places. And then probably consider desalination of water towards potabilization of water to be supplied to local residents. So it's really a wide partner ecosystem we're trying to address, and it's not just a pure put the turbine in water play. It's I would say it's short of saying it's a very noble activity.
Globally, my vision is to accelerate the development of offshore wind as the key enabler of energy transition and economic growth. But particularly in the Philippines, we are aspiring to be the leader in offshore wind industry, providing a technical expertise in the field. And with the right local partner, we are aiming to deliver the first offshore wind project.
I think, to elaborate what Jarek said, as to be the leader in offshore wind, the pipeline in the Philippines is 7.6 gigawatts by BlueFloat. It's the most cumulative number of gigawatts that any developer in the Philippines has. We have a competition map of what we see as developers. We plot it. We are reviewing all other wind energy service contract. The closest to what we have is around 5. What follows at number 3 is around 3 to 4 gig. 7.6 is tops in the Philippines. Now, extending that further in a global scale, we have 33. There's a Wood Mackenzie report for 2022 wherein we are just at 26 gigawatt and we rack up at number 1. We believe that with the pipeline that we have, we continue to be number 1 in terms of cumulative pipeline, and that is leadership for us. And we hope the quality of our sites and the quality of our project execution will be able to make us realize as making this built operational for at least 35 to 40 years after construction.